Big welcome back to Scoreline. Now, football's returned, which we're all very happy about here at CBS Golazo. And Witty, first few games in all the leagues, we're going to get through your monthly power rankings.
Yeah, I've done this before, and this is usually a pretty controversial one. Usually people end up very upset at me. I make some choices. I don't put your team high enough, and I apologize for that.
Well, I haven't seen your list yet, so I think we're going to work from 10 upwards,
yes.
Right? What's the criteria that you selected this, or is it just how you feel?
I think it's kind of a combination of my priors at the start of the season, where I kind of thought everyone was, in combination with the results and the performances that we've seen so far.
Okay, so we kick it off at number 10?
Yeah, we'll start with Chelsea as my number 10 team. Obviously, coming in off of winning the Club World Cup, they are the world champions, but I think for as well as they played against West Ham, drawing it home in the opening day against Crystal Palace might have dropped them a few spots, especially when we compare them to some of the other big teams that have perfect records. So I still think there's a lot to like about this Chelsea team. Obviously, their performance on Friday was magnificent.
Find Chelsea such an interesting package this year because a lot of people are saying they could be the dark horse for the title. A lot of saying top 4 is the limit for that club. Where do you see them doing this season?
For me, the interesting one is just last season, I think they met expectations. They won the Conference League, which is, I think, what they should have done given the gap between them and everyone else in the competition. And in the Premier League, they got to 4th, but at no point did you ever really feel like they were going to cause a problem. Now, I think there's a real expectation for them to now go and attack this season and try and be competitive at the top of the Premier League. But we'll see if they can do that as well as perform in the Champions League.
Well, at least we all know now what Chris Whitty thinks about the Club World Cup because Chelsea are already in at number 10. Should we head to number 9?
Yeah, I've gone for Tottenham at number 9. And you said to me you were a little surprised by Tottenham at 9. Tottenham Hotspur.
I know you're keeping your producer happy. I can hear it while you're saying it's a good choice.
Okay, so what I liked about their performances so far this season, 2 clean sheets. The way that they dominated Manchester City was really impressive. But honestly, I'm also giving them a lot of credit for what they did in the UEFA Super Cup. Against a team as good as Paris Saint-Germain, and I have them pretty high up on my rankings, they have produced tremendous performances so far this season in all 3 games. You can see Thomas Frank building something, and I would not be surprised to see them compete well in the Champions League and continue what they're doing in the Premier League. So I give them a lot of credit for what we've seen so far.
I think the job Thomas Frank's done to turn them from a team who concede a lot of goals, where they look solid, they look resolute this year.
Yeah.
So Tottenham Hotspur in at number 9. Who have you gone in at number 8?
This is a team that I had outside of my top 10 before the start of the season, Inter, and honestly, given the performance we saw on Monday, could be even higher because a 5-0 win, I think they put to bed some of my concerns that I had about them, which was namely the coach was going to come in and either play a different system or the players wouldn't look to have that connectivity that they had under Simone Inzaghi, but they looked absolutely fantastic on Monday. And you are reminded that sometimes, yes, we talk about managers so much on this show and in football. When things don't go well, it's about the manager, but sometimes when you're a team with as much talent as Inter have, certainly in comparison to the rest of Serie A, the players can get you there. And Kivu, to give him credit, has done well to not really get in their way, and we'll see as the season goes on if he can continue to go from strength to strength with this team.
Yep, as we saw earlier on Scoreline, 5 goals on their opening match day in Serie A. I can't wait to see who've put in at number 7.
I've gone for Real Madrid at number 7 because, yes, they have won a couple of games so far, but I was left a little bit disappointed by the manner in which they've achieved those performances. I haven't really seen yet a Real Madrid side under Xabi Alonso that expresses themselves well and plays good football. In the 2 games that we've seen from them in La Liga, they played against very resolute defenses. And then when the game opened up yesterday, Vinny and Mbappe punished Real Oviedo. But this in some ways is a little bit of an incomplete for me. We still haven't seen them against a top-level team, but I haven't been massively impressed with what I've seen so far from Real Madrid. So I've gone for them in 7th.
Star power up front. How big is the task for them to go and stop Barcelona going back-to-back?
Huge, because Barcelona, for the mistakes that we've seen from them this season, they still have, I think, that a level of attacking quality where they're 2-0 down in a game, you back them to go and make it 3-2 because of how much they produce going forward. Real scored 3 at the weekend, but I just haven't seen that same level of firepower. I don't think it's clicking quite yet.
6.
I've gone for Napoli, and this is, again, for me, in some ways about the priors, because I was a big believer in Napoli coming into the season. Scott McTominay scores in the opening day.
Scottish Maradona. He's done it in number 6.
And he looks so comfortable and so natural in that place, and that team is just building on what they did last season. So, for me, Napoli are a team that I expect to compete well in Europe. I think there's usually 1 Italian team or 2 Italian teams that do well in Europe. I think Napoli, with Antonio Conte in the dugout, with what they've added, they seem to be a team at peace, which is not always the case given the ownership, which is not always the case given Antonio Conte. And even though they lost Romelu Lukaku to an injury, they still went out and performed incredibly well. They were dominant, albeit against a newly promoted team in Sassuolo. But I think that's the exact spot that I had them in about a month ago, so I'm leaving it as is.
Consistent, and no same winner in the last 5 years in Serie A, but Napoli are getting my nod to take the Scudetto.
Yeah, I mean, they I think, deserve, based off what they did last season, based off of continuing to add really good players to the team, they deserve to come into this season as the favorites, and it's on Inter or someone else to knock them off their perch.
Business end, top 5. Who comes in at number 5?
I've gone for Barcelona, and this, I think, I ranked them higher earlier in the year, and I think the reason why I've dropped them is because I'm now starting to worry about these defensive issues that are creeping in. Yes, they've played with a high line, and I think in some ways we talk about a high line as an inherently risky thing, as something that is going to get you in trouble. They didn't always get Barcelona in trouble last season. There were times where that high line is the reason why they create so much going forward, why it was so difficult to play against them. I think they're missing a few ingredients right now. Jules Koundé didn't start at the weekend at right back. But I think the biggest thing is they did not replace Inigo Martinez, who left on a free to Saudi Arabia. And they can't really replace him because all the conversations that we have about their financial issues. And so I think center back, they don't really have an organizer. Pau Cubarsí is still a teenager. And I don't think Ronald Araujo is that guy. He's a great physical presence, but he's not the kind of player that's going to organize a defense. They are missing an organizer in that back four. And I think that's what their problem is right now. So I'm a little bit more worried about Barcelona. That being said, though, so many shots, so many chances. You know that this team is brilliant going forward, so you can't rank them too low, but I'm a little bit more worried about them now than I was at the start of the season.
They could be a faller, could they, in next month's power rankings, but so much success last year, and we expect it with a Hansi Flick team. That high line, such attacking football, deservedly in the top 5. Number 4?
Bayern Munich, and this is a little bit about the priors that I had for them at the start of the season, but also about the performance that they put in, absolutely destroying RB Leipzig, who are one of the teams that you expect to be, at the very least, top 6, top 7 in the Bundesliga. I just think they're a class above right now in the Bundesliga. They're going to probably have to go in for more players. We'll see if they can add 1 or 2 more attacking pieces, having let Coman go, and I think they're missing a little bit in those attacking positions. Harry Kane has talked about it being a thin team, but in terms of the output, in terms of what they can put on the field, without Jamal Musiala, Michael Olise is so good. Luis Diaz fit hand in glove into that team. And I think they're going to get players back. And I just believe in this Bayern team. I love the way that they come out firing at the start of the season. Some of the performances, I thought at the Club World Cup, they were the team that ran PSG the closest before they lost to Chelsea in the final. So I'm really impressed with what Bayern did on the opening day. I think the scary
thing for the rest of the Bundesliga is how quickly Olise, Kane and Luis Diaz have clicked, because they look frightening, don't they?
Yes, they do. And that amount of attacking talent in one team is just going to run over the rest of the Bundesliga. The question is, in the Champions League, can they beat these other teams here on this list at the business end? Because I don't even think they really came particularly close against Inter in last year's quarterfinal. Yeah,
that next big step is the Champions League. But Witty, who have you got in your top 3?
I've gone for Arsenal in 3rd, and I think part of it is the display. I think the 2 displays. One is the attacking dominance that we saw, Victor Gyökeres getting a pair of goals. This is even still with the injuries to Saka and Odegaard. They continue to add in the transfer market. They got their striker going. I just think that this squad is now at a place where you look at it and go, it's kind of unassailable. Incredibly strong in midfield now with Zubimendi, Merino, and Declan Rice in forward areas. Last year, we would have talked about a Saka-Odegaard injury and gone, who are they going to play? And now you have Nwaneri to bring in. You have Madueke to bring in. You have Eberechi Eze to bring in.
Max Dowman played well in his
Max
first
Dowman,
game.
I love him as a player. They've got so much talent in those forward positions that I'm not worried about them now when they get a couple of injuries. It is a strong 1 to 20, 1 to 25 squad that can survive injuries, that is relentlessly solid defensively, that scores some set pieces. I just think it's a difficult team to slow down. The one thing is that we saw in the Man United game, I think what you like about that performance is that you can play that kind of game where you're defending and you're under the cosh, but you still keep the clean sheet. You get the 1 goal away from home at Old Trafford from a set piece and go home with 3 points. But I think there were elements of that performance where you need to see week in, week out, somewhere in between dominating leads by a massive scoreline and kind of hanging on to a result. You need to see a consistent level of performance from them.
Yeah, probably the best window in the Premier League for sure. Just nice to see Arsenal not in second place on a list. But
yeah,
who
fair enough.
Who have you put in second?
I've dropped PSG a spot. Now, in some ways, there's a little bit of an incomplete. They played a couple 1-0s in Liga. They're very clearly easing their way into the season after winning the Super Cup on penalties, but we have yet to see, and in some ways it's difficult for them to impress unless they play your Monacos and your Marseilles in France. Even Lyon this season have gotten off to a good start. But for PSG, I still rate them incredibly highly. I still think that they're the team to beat in the Champions League based off of what they showed game in, game out in terms of quality of performance. Even at the Club World Cup, yes, they lost the final, but until then, they were as dominant as they have ever been. So I still rate PSG incredibly highly.
And their real challenge will come in the Champions League.
Yes.
Top spot, I haven't seen a team I'm looking out for, so I'm hoping they take the #1 spot.
It's Liverpool Football Club. It was the one team that throughout the day as we were watching the games, I have them somewhere in between 1 and 3, and it was just how they finished out that game. And when you get all 6 points to start this season, with I am presuming kind of a little bit with these rankings that they're going to go get Isak, with the talent that they brought in as the reigning champions of England, I just think they're in a position now where they can just feel so much confidence now going forward. And yeah, there's some flaws. I think there are other teams on this list that maybe haven't put in as flawed of performances, giving away 4 Premier League goals so far at the start of the season. But I still think that in terms of the quality of squad, in terms of the top-end talent that they have, that they're the best team. Right now, I would say that they are the best team heading in towards this UEFA Champions League and towards all these major competitions we're going to be watching for the next few months.